everyone, and welcome back to Phat Pack Magic, where we've got some awesome vintage cube gameplay here for you today. Bobby has won the role, and he's going to be on the play. So let's see what their decks can do. Bobby draws 7, and that is not a very appetizing 7. He's got Vidalcan Shackles, which I think is going to be very powerful in this matchup, but he doesn't have much of anything else. Maybe he could draw into something, but he's looking like he's going to make the smart decision, and he's going to mulligan. Bobby's deck is incredibly powerful, and it has lots of ways to gain that card advantage. Ancestral Recall, as you guys have seen, but Vidalcan Shackles is a really powerful card, especially against Mike's deck, which is a mid-range aggro kind of deck. So Bobby draws a new opening hand, and this seems a lot better. He's got 2 of his cantrips to dig through and get some good card selection going, and he's going to put down the Cyclonic Rift, opting to keep the Force of Negation, and he's going to start off with a turn 1 Preordain. 2 cards on the top, one goes to the top, the other goes to the bottom, and he draws a Mana Leak. That's pretty solid. But Mike is going to start off his turn 1 by taking 2 life with a Godless Shrine and using Entomb. He's going to dig up something juicy. Now, fun fact about Mike's deck, originally he was going to go with the black-white Reanimator deck, but he didn't get any of his really strong bombs to make it work. Bobby starts off his turn 2, plays a Swamp, and that's his turn. Pass it back. And Mike has just finished resolving the Entomb. So Mike plays another land, and he's going to drop Gerard's Verdict. And that is one spicy card, but it's going to get Mana Leaked. And he may have just been trying to test the waters here, but it's a solid Mana Leak for sure. Bobby plays his land for turn, and Mike draws a Vindicate. Now again, he's testing the waters by playing the Thalia first, and then he drops Caracas. Oh man, is this going to be hard for Bobby, because he has no way to deal with that Thalia right now. He's got Liliana's Triumph, but that'll just buy Mike another turn as he bounces the Thalia back to his hand. Draws for turn, and he swings at Bobby. Bobby puts him down to 18. And while Thalia not applying a lot of physical pressure, is really hindering Bobby on mana. And now here comes the actual pressure. Brimaz, King of Oreskos, and that is going to be one tough play. Because he's just going to make an army of dudes, and a 3-4 body is nothing to snark at. Bobby deep in the tank here, wondering if he should try and just take a swing off the Brimaz. But still, that Mike has potentially 6 power on the board, and Bobby drops a Hangerback Walker. The Hangerback is going to be able to block one of the tokens, and then next turn he can block the Thalia by pumping it, and maybe outrun Mike's game plan. Except Umazel's Jitte is gonna hit. It lands. Bobby doesn't counter it. He's gonna hang on to the Ponder instead. Wow. I guess he's going to try and figure out a way to wipe the board rather than... I mean, if he draws Damnation next turn, that's going to be huge. Because then the Jitte isn't going to have anything to equip onto. But still. So, Bobby blocks with the Hangerback. Wait, Mike just passed the turn? Mike, you realize you could have given the Hangerback -1/-1, right? And then Bobby gets 2 Thopters, and then you use the other Jitte counter to kill the other Thopter, and Bobby's just down to 1 Thopter. I mean, what is Mike holding on to? I mean, I guess... But... I mean, that was the turn to kill the Walker right there. So Bobby ponders, and he's not coming up with anything really worth drawing here. I still can't believe Mike didn't kill the Hangerback though, because it would have left Bobby down to 1 Thopter, and then Mike could really take over the game. Those Jitte counters just, I mean, does he not realize that Jitte can give creatures -1/-1? Because Bobby his hanger back only had 1 damage on it. Yeah, sure, and one -1/-1 counter would kill the walker. But Bobby draws Coalition Relic. And, I mean, I think Bobby really missed a pivotal play by not countering that Jitte. Either he just doesn't respect it, or he wanted the Ponder more. But Ponder ended up turning into a Coalition Relic. So it sounded more like he was taking a gamble. So Bobby, in response to Brimaz making a token, he drops Liliana's Triumph, which means that Caracas isn't going to be able to bounce Thalia, and finally free up Bobby's mana. And so Mike is going all in on the Jitte pump play, giving Brimaz +4/+4 and bringing Bobby down to 6, only sacrificing a token. I guess now he's reading it and he realizes, oh, he can kill Hairback Walker. But in response, Bobby is going to put a counter on the Hangerback. So, at the very minimum, Bobby would get 3 Thopters if Mike chose to kill the Hangerback this turn. But it looks like he's going in on the reanimation plan, bringing back the Hero of Blade Hold that he seeded on turn 1. Oh man. And Bobby draws Packrat. I mean, he's been holding on to that Force of Negation, but I think the card that you wanted to force has already landed, Bobby. So now Hero of Blade Hold is rearing and ready to go. Bobby is going to be able to make chump blockers, but here he is. And here's what Mike is doing. He is stacking the creature generation tokens with the battle cry. So Brimaz token lands, and then the Hero Blade tokens land, and then battle cry resolves, giving Mike 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 power coming right at Bobby's face. And he's going to have to really make some chump block moves right now. So he's going to make a Packrat token, discarding the Coalition Relic that's been not really doing much in his hand. And he can block and he can live this turn and just go down to 2. But Mike would have been, like, in response to the Bobby making a Packrat token, Mike could have given the Packrat -1/-1. It would have killed the Packrat token, and the other Packrat token would be just a 1/1 that he could then give another -1/-1 to, and he would have finished off the game right then and there. I don't think Mike is understanding how Jitte really works. But here he is, he's swinging. Bobby is going to assign blocks. He's going to be able to kill off that Hero of Blade Hold, and trade a Packrat token with the team. So Bobby's giving his Hangerback Walker a +1/+1 counter. They're doing blocks. Okay, so blocks are assigned. He's giving Hangerback Walker +1/+1 counter. And Mike is, I'm gonna Ink Eyes, Ceremony, here we go, swing. And okay, he could have done it differently with the Jitte, but you know what? He still had Ink Eyes, he still won off of Ink Eyes, and that's pretty awesome. That's an awesome game. We're gonna go on to game 2, but real quick, we've got a word from our sponsors, which is me. I'm my own sponsor. You know, people come up to me all the time and they say, oh my god, I love your cube, but how do I see more of it? So I made an Instagram account. So if you love the foils, if you love the alters, if you love all the bling bling Phat Pack Magic style, come check us out at Instagram.com Phat Pack Magic. Welcome back. Bobby and Mike have drawn out their opening hands, and it looks like Bobby's gonna keep. Bobby plays a swamp and passes the turn. Mike drops down to plains. Bobby plays an island, unfortunately not going to be able to get that turn 2 him to Torok. And Mike says, here's a Gerard's Verdict. And Bobby doesn't have the mana leak this time. But he's got Cyclonic Rift and deciding on what to pitch. I mean, the Cyclonic Rift and maybe the Mutavault, and hoping he draws lands? That seems like it's going to be the play, and Mike gains 3 life off that exchange. But Bobby draws the swamp he needs, and now is he going to hold up Force of Despair? No, he says one good turn deserves another, and here comes him to Turok to nuke some of Mike's hand. So Bobby and Mike deciding on how they're going to sort it out. And those 2 cards get binned. It's Shalai and a Plains. But Mike doesn't seem too bothered here. He confidently plays that Godless Shrine tapped, and here comes Animate Dead with a convenient target in the graveyard. Shalai with that nice little hexproof ability there. Bobby decides to go for the Demonic Tutor. And any card in his deck, that's a pretty awesome deck to go through. He's got Ancestral Recall and he's got Vidalcan Shackles as valid targets against Mike's deck. But he's going to go with the Ancestral Recall. Bobby's a gambler. He's got the balls to do it. He says, you know what, if I really need those Vidalcan Shackles, I'll just draw them with the Ancestral Recall. Good job, Bobby. Now Mike takes his turn, he's drawn, and he's going to swing at Bobby for 2, and Bobby is going to play Liliana's Triumph, conveniently getting around that nice little you have hexproof clause, because each opponent, not target opponent, a very much more awesome version of Diabolic Edict. And here comes Brimaz, an old foe of Bobby's, and Bobby decides he's going to Ancestral Recall, not drawing too much gas, but a land is always good. And he plays Hangerback Walker for 2. Now his Hangerback Walker I think that Hangerback Walker is going to be amazing here, because unless Mike draws a Jitte, that Hangerback Walker is going to quickly be able to outpace his team. And unfortunately, Mike does not have the Jitte. Instead, he plays out Thalia and Deathrite Shaman, and passes back to Bobby. Bobby decides he's going to play the Coalition Relic, and that's going to give him a little bit of acceleration, a little bit of any color mana he needs to be able to fix out his turns. And Mike draws. Unfortunately, that Thalia, even with their first strike, isn't going to be able to get through on that Walker, which is going to be able to become a 3/3 this turn. But still, Mike swings in. Bobby blocks the token, takes 3, goes down to 14, and pumps up the Walker, adding a counter onto the Coalition Relic, generating a, whatever mana that, thankfully, Mana Burn doesn't happen anymore. Plays the Sunken Ruins, and he has Disallow and Force of Despair in hand. But here comes Mike's B game, and that's exiling Bobby's graveyard, dealing 2 damage with that Deathrite Shaman. And here comes Mirran Crusader. Now he can slowly whittle down Bobby's life total and double it up with more of that Deathrite Shaman action going on. Bobby adds a counter. And unfortunately, it looks like he's in the back seat right now. But he's got Treachery in hand. Now the question is, what does he steal with this? Because right now, he's going to have a tough time playing offense, but every turn, that Deathrite Shaman is going to whittle down 2 of his life. He's going to Treachery the Deathrite Shaman. Man, what a play! The Deathrite Shaman is still going to exile an instant or sorcery from Bobby's graveyard and deal 2 damage to him, bringing him down to 10. But now Bobby has figured out a way to not die to the Deathrite Shaman at least. Now Mike's board is not very strong against the Hangerback Walker, but he's going to swing in anyways because he needs to get as much damage in there as possible before Bobby can come back from it. So he's swinging in for 6, 10, lethal, and Bobby is going to block the Double Striker put a counter on the hanger back, and take 6. Now down comes Hypnotic Spectre, but end of turn, Bobby is gonna Force of Despair, killing the Spectre and the token. A nice little 1.5 for 1. Bobby draws, removes the mana, calls green, which is definitely good because he's going to be able to start gaining some life. And this is a pretty good ponder right here with Cryptic Command, Damnation, and Creeping Tar Pit. He definitely needs as much life as he can get because each turn that Brimaz making a token and then the Thalia swinging in would bring Bobby down to 3 after Bobby gaining 2 life from the Deathrite Shaman. So Bobby opts to take the Cryptic Command, gains 2 life by exiling a creature from Mike's graveyard, putting him up to 6. And he passes the turn back. But now he has Cryptic Command in hand. And Mike drew Reanimate. And he's going to cast it, targeting the Hypnotic Spectre. Which is pretty strong, given that Bobby has no defense against flying at the moment. And he's deciding if he wants to counter and draw the Reanimate, or just let it happen. And he says that's fine. Mike takes 3 off that exchange. And now the question is Mike going to sacrifice the Brimaz? And he's going to do that, yes. All in the hopes of getting Bobby down to 3 life. Because if Bobby blocks the Brimaz, that's still a token on Mike's side of the field. And the token and the Hypnotic Spectre in conjunction will be lethal. So Bobby blocks, puts a counter on it, untaps, and he's going to use that counter from the Coalition Relic to exile a card and gain 2 life, bringing him up to 5. But Bobby's going to put a counter on the Walker, and now it's time. Damnation. This completely resets the board, but leaves Bobby with 7 1/1 flying Thopters. And while he doesn't have Cryptic Command mana up at the moment, he is in a safe position. But Mike plops down Liliana the Last Hope, and he's going to use her -2 ability and decide on what he can grab that can actually deal with this onslaught of Thopters and at the same time kill Bobby. Or one or the other. And it looks like he's picking Deathrite Shaman. And he's milling the top 2. It's Hero Bladehold, which Hero might be an okay pick, but math-wise, he can play Deathrite Shaman this turn, and then next turn he'll only take 6 because 1 Thopter will kill Liliana, putting him down to 14. And then the follow-up would be he can exile a creature, or excuse me, he can exile an instant or sorcery from Bobby's graveyard, putting Bobby down to 3. Bobby swings in for 7. Next turn, Bobby puts him down to 1. I mean, even still, the math kind of wonky at that, but the fact that Bobby has Cryptic Command, which can bounce and reset that Deathrite Shaman counter, and he has the Creeping Tar Pit, which really screws up the math for Mike here. The question is, does Mike have removal in hand that can deal with one of the Thopters? Especially if Bobby doesn't go at least 2 in at the Liliana. He says he's going to swing 1 in at Liliana, 6 at Mike. Mike says, okay, Liliana dead. And here's the turn. Mike is down at 14 and facing down lethal Thopters in 2 turns. He needs another threat, another something to get through this damage. Instead, he just passes the turn back. Bobby draws, and it's a Preordain. He decides to cast it, look at the top two, see what's going on, and it's Recoil and Innocent Blood. Bobby has so many ways to deal with this Deathrite Shaman. He's not even worried. He's going to animate the Creeping Tar Pit, swing in for 10, and this is going to bring Mike down to 4. Mike has nothing he can do about this. And here's an Innocent Blood, just in case you might be able to get there with the Deathrite Shaman. In response, Mike activates it, brings Bobby down to 3. Mike is at 4 life. It's lethal next turn, and he's just going to pay 4 life to dismember a token. Way to go, Mike. Alright, he's going out on his own terms. That's fine. That's all well and good. I'm fine with that. I support that kind of play. Alright, guys. We've got one more game coming up. It's game 3 of the last match of the tournament. So we're shuffling up for game 3, and I think what Bobby really wants to see in his opening hand is something along the lines of Vidalcan Shackles, or maybe a Damnation, some kind of way to control Mike's board. And Mike, I think, really wants to see that Gerard's Verdict again. It did so much stuff against Bobby's hand in game 1. Just being able to draw out that Mana Leak. Or any kind of controlling anti-control cards like Thalia would be really strong. Caracas would be amazing. Or especially that Jitte. But Mike is throwing his hand back, and it looks like Bobby is keeping because he's going to be on the draw this round. Bobby going over his tokens. The Hangerback Walker did a lot of work in that previous game. And I think getting a Hangerback Walker on 2 or on 3 is going to be really strong against Mike's deck. Being able to outpace those 3-4 drops and eventually being able to cash it in for a lot of advantage in flying 1/1 Thopters. So Mike is looking at his hand again, and it looks good. He's putting 1 to the bottom. And we are going to start. Here we go. What do you got for us, Mike? Mike is deciding on a swamp and pass. And Bobby plays an island and starts off with a Ponder. And the Ponder looks pretty good. Good enough for him to keep him on top and draw a card off of it, I think. It was really fast, so... Okay, so Bobby plays a swamp and passes it back. Mike is on turn 3, drops Caracas. And looks like he's going to go with Thalia, Heretic Athar. And that's going to instantly get Agony Warped, -3/-3. And Bobby is going to be able to play a land and pass the turn back. Now Mike is looking at his hand, and it looks like he's stuck on 3 lands. But here comes a Mirran Crusader, which conveniently has Pro Black. And Bobby is deciding if he wants to let it go, and it does. He has the Disallow in hand, but it's, it's fine. Because he's going to Preordain, look at the top 2, bottom them, and draw into a swamp. He still has Disallow magic up in hand, maybe waiting for a Jitte, or maybe waiting to, catch Mike on a 2-for-1. Mike draws his 4th land, and here comes Shalai, giving all of his creatures hexproof and giving him hexproof. But Bobby is okay with that because he has the Damnation in hand. He takes 4, goes down to 16, and he's got all the mana to do it with. Here we go. Now the question is he going to let another charge of damage come in, or is he going to stem the bleeding here? In Mike's position, he doesn't really have to apply much more pressure to the board. He can just keep swinging in, doing 7 damage a turn, and that quickly clocks Bobby at 3 turns. And Bobby does the math. The math is too much for him. Damnation, clear the board, and Mike is on to his turn. A 2-for-1 at the cost of 4 life is pretty okay. Now Mike is separating his Caracas from the rest of his field, signaling a legendary, and down comes Brimaz and Deathrite Shaman. Now, if those 2 threats of Shalai and the Mirran Crusader weren't enough, here comes 2 more. And he's already used his board wipe. Now, Bobby has another in the form of Cyclonic Rift, but that's another turn away and he has to draw it. And that doesn't fully clear the board, it just bounces him. So Bobby plays a land for turn. Now, he does have that Phyrexian copy dude in hand, and he's going to play it, and he's going to make a copy of Brimaz, I'd assume. Now, the only problem with this, and yes, he does make it Brimaz, the only problem with this is that Mike can bounce the Metamorph because it's a legendary creature. So Mike takes his turn, opting not to bounce and try and keep his own Brimaz safe from harm. And instead he's going to Doomblade. And that Phyrexian Metamorph is a non-black creature. And knowing that, I applaud Mike's ability, I applaud his patience. Because if he had bounced his creature with Karakas, and Bobby did a removal spell, that would have been painful. But now Mike has an oppressive board. He's got the Paladin in back, which has pro-black and pro-red, Deathrite Shaman, a Brimaz, and a Cat token. Bobby is facing down 2, 5, 6, potentially 8 damage with the Deathrite Shaman activation next turn. Let's see what Bobby has to offer. He's rearranging his mana, so he's definitely signaling a Cryptic Command. He's got 3 blue, and maybe he's going to set up for a Cryptic Command to try and tap the board, and a Disallow in case he needs to counter something as well. So Mike is going to animate Dead, and look at that Shalai. And Bobby is going to counter and tap down the field. And in response, Mike is going to activate the Deathrite Shaman, taking down Bobby 2 very important life, bringing him down to 9. But he's going to be able to Bobby is going to be able to fog Mike for a turn, and that can be a very, very important turn. If he can get maybe a Cyclonic Rift or something just to reset this field. And a comeback does usually start with an Ancestral Recall where he draws 3 cards, but not when he draws 3 lands and a Coalition Relic. Bobby offers the hand because Mike was going to be able to swing in for lethal and get that Deathrite Shaman trigger in. Man, what a game. Bobby playing very well, and Mike just being able to outpace and outrace Bobby's control spells. What a game. And this is going to bring victory to Mike for this tournament. Thank you guys so much for watching, and definitely subscribe, definitely leave a like, and check us out on Instagram too, because we're showing all the updates that go onto the cube. I get more foils every day. I've been getting Thrones of Eldraine cards as well. So check us out, and may all your packs be fat.